Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend William Levwood, affectionately known as Rev Lev, and I have the great privilege of being the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. It's so good to see all of you this morning. I have been on what's called study leave over the summer. Unitarian Universalism treats its ministers with quite a bit more reasonableness than a lot of my Christian colleagues who don't get time for study leave or even often barely any Sundays off. So I'm grateful to have that study leave time to prepare for this upcoming church year, and I'm even more happy to be with you again this Sunday. Let us begin, as we always do, by centering ourselves for worship, taking a deep breath together. We open and welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all, together, shall one day know full justice.
Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. I am Christina Watts, and my pronouns are she and her, and I am happy to be your worship associate today. If you aren't new to Accotink, look around. Do you see people that you haven't met or haven't spoken to in a while? These people like you and want to meet you. Help us live up to our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home for all by reaching out and making a connection. By visiting this congregation, newcomers are in a transition moment, and people in transitions are more open to new friendships. That means that your new best friend may be here this morning, and this is your chance to get to know them. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our social hour immediately after the service. And I believe we're also having our second Sunday of the month brunch today. We're so delighted that you decided to join us today, so welcome.
We've been sharing each Sunday some good news. This is part of our Defending Our Democracy initiative. It's meant to remind us that there is good news in the world as an antidote to our doom scrolling. So just two pieces of good news to share. There's many more, of course, but two pieces to lift up. A new analysis of black voters in the South indicates that gerrymandering attempts to dilute their political power are backfiring, driving more black voters to the polls in large numbers. And the DOJ, the Department of Justice, has moved to dismiss charges against David Huerta, a prominent Californian union leader who was arrested while protesting against an ICE raid in Los Angeles last year. You'll hear later about another union leader who had a big impact for our service and for the world a little bit later. So this month, our theme is Love at the Center. Our UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association, every year there's a common read that we're all encouraged to read and a discussion guide. And this year there's even a curriculum connected to it. And the common read is a collection of essays on Unitarian Universalist theologies called Love at the Center. So this month we're going to explore that and kind of lay the groundwork for our whole year by centering ourselves in love. And there's a model of rings that places this love at the center first inside of the love that's holding all of us. Inside the love that's holding all of us, there's the love we have within ourselves, for ourselves, There's the love that exists between each of us. There's also the love amongst us. That's a fascinating one about how we are together in this community, including how we relate to each other in the moment, but also the structures of how we organize our governance, making sure that love is at the center of those as well. And today we're going to talk about the ring of love beyond us. When love at the center calls us to reach out beyond this community, to do justice work, to do liberation work, to do mutual aid for those in our larger community. Because we're called to do that by that love at the center. So that's our theme for this month, and we'll be exploring the different rings each Sunday of the month and even into September. So with that, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, and we're going to say our chalice lighting words together. Love is at the center of Unitarian Universalism. Love is the practice of our living tradition. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant to be a beloved community by cultivating generosity and celebrating diversity. We help everyone flourish by honoring the web of life and transforming the world with love.
Somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush. Somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do?
Good morning. I'm Michelle Anderson. I am delighted to be Accotink's Children and Youth Spiritual Development Director. And today I have brought out the Wonder Box. It's been a while since we've seen this big old Wonder Box. Would anybody like to come see what's inside? All right, just open it up. There's 2 clips on the front. And then show everybody what is inside. Heart. And there's one thing else. And a list of people who need help. Think about what that might mean when I tell you the story. Thank you so much. This is a story about love that reaches strangers. It's based on the article When Love is Criminalized by Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen in Love at the Center, Unitarian Universalist Theologies, edited by Sophia Betancourt. If you'd like to look at the book, I'll leave it up on the front seat and you can take a look after service today. A minister once met someone who was locked up in an immigration jail. The person inside wasn't a criminal. They just didn't have the right paperwork to be in the country. While the minister visited, the person handed her a list of names. These people need help, they said quietly. This person has no one to come to court with them. This person's family needs money for rent. This person could go free if someone paid their bond. The minister took the list. She started visiting the people whose names were on it. She began asking others to help too. Slowly, something amazing started to grow. More and more people joined in. They formed a network, a web of helpers. Some people donated money. Others showed up to court so people wouldn't be alone. Some helped families pay rent. Some raised money to pay bonds so people could be released. One by one, people walked out of jail into freedom. The minister and her network would take them for a hot meal. They'd show them on a map where they were and how far they've traveled. They'd lend them a phone so they could call someone they loved and say, "I'm out. I'm free." Most of these helpers had never met the people they were helping. They were complete strangers. But love moved them to act anyway. Love beyond us doesn't just care about people we know. Sometimes it moves us to help people we've never even met, simply because they need help and we can give it.
Hello. I'd like to introduce Denise Woods, the founding director of Food Justice DMV. I don't know how she does it, but Denise stays on top of a very complex organization, keeping it running smoothly, coordinating numerous donations and volunteers. I truly appreciate her being available at all hours for all kinds of questions. Denise.
Hello. So nice to see everybody. Dottie, thank you so much. You're amazing. And this is too loud, let me know. Accotink, you are an extraordinary organization. You may not know this, but you have 9 volunteers who deliver food for us on Tuesdays, which means on any given Tuesday, if they are all there, 1/4 to 1/3 of our volunteers will be from this congregation. Raise your hand. Yeah. Raise your hand if you're one of them and give them a round of applause. Yay! By the way, I am loving this. I'm you too. Just want to be transparent about this. I want to start with a brief, say that twice, I can't even say it once, brief birth story. This all began with Oscar, who I had been accompanying to a court so he could avoid being deported. He told me one time he had to pay for a cab to make it to court, and it cost him $150. And when he got home, he had to tell his daughter Isa why they had no food. This struck like an arrow in my heart. And when COVID hit, I contacted him and Claribel, who I'd been accompanying with her 1-year-old, who they were threatening to deport on her due date. I found out that they both needed food, and overnight we converted our court accompaniment hotline to a food hotline, imagining that we would be supporting 200 families for a brief, shining moment. Well, fate laughed really hard, and it exploded. Our number was given out on Facebook, on the radio, in grocery stores, and we went from 200 to 600 to 3,000 to 5,000 to now we support and stand in solidarity with 13,000 migrant families in this region. Wow, I love this congregation even more. After close to 6 years as a volunteer collectiva, we have delivered food to more than 1.5 million families and raised more than $2.6 million. We have 3 weekly distributions: Tuesday, Virginia, Thursday, Maryland, and Saturday in DC. Both Saturday and DC and Virginia Tuesday have a home delivery model, which your 9 volunteers are participating in. They deliver culturally responsive food, diapers, wipes, sanitary pads, formula. You collect them out there. You all participate in that amazing food gathering. We now deliver a jaw-dropping to 1,200 families monthly. And we spend $8,000 to $10,000 a week just on formula and diapers. We have 43 powerful BIPOC community leaders who are centered in our leadership, 13 in Virginia, 30 in Maryland. And they serve more than 5,000 families every month, including 19 churches, 11 neighborhoods, 6 apartment complexes, 4 schools, and many, many more. This last 18 months, as you well know, has been brutal. As people we have served have been kidnapped, we have had to move into uncharted territory to deliver to hundreds in hiding. Thankfully, we've had a concomitant wave of support with people wanting to meet the moment because they realize that a food delivery can keep a family from being kidnapped. And we now have moved from 250 volunteers to close to 1,000. What has inspired me over and over is our community leaders who keep going even though ICE is inside and outside of their buildings, ripping families apart. In Virginia alone, 5 of our 13 community leaders have been devastated by ICE, including Maricela. I met her when I delivered food to her, and her spirit lit up the sky. She was 7 months pregnant when she started delivering with us, and now she delivers every week with the most cutest, adorable, I'm a little biased, toddler named Tiago. And her husband was horrifically kidnapped. Her family now, and her 3 children and her now live between 2 worlds emotionally. Just this last week, Fanal, our Haitian community leader's goddaughter, was kidnapped. She is the family's breadwinner. She works in a meat packing company, and her 5 and 6-year-olds have stopped eating. This is emotional. And speaking of emotions, I get so emotional thanking you. Thanking you. Sorry. For ensuring migrant families are not alone and that they're welcome here. Thank you so much.
Our reading today is from an excerpt from When Love is Criminalized by the Reverend Elizabeth Wen. And it's from that book that Michelle held up earlier in Love at the Center. So this is the text that the Time for All Ages was based on. In 2017, a local union organizer was incarcerated by ICE and started organizing support for people inside of the jail where he was caged. He reached out to a few of us on the outside who were clergy and asked us to begin visiting him. He would pass us names during those visits, telling us who had no one to show up to court with them, who was looking for a lawyer, whose family needed help making rent, who had no commissary money on their books, who had an immigration bond and could be free if they could find the money to pay it. Slowly, we built an anti-deportation network and eventually an immigration bond fund. As we did, I became a person who knew the love that is bonding someone out of immigration jail. Our network became people who knew a power that no one should ever know, the power of paying a ransom to the government for a human's freedom. We became people who knew the power of that first hot meal, of showing someone on a map where we were, how far they had come, of lending a phone so someone could call a loved one and say, "I'm free, I'm free." Our bookcases filled with art made by folks while in jail, our guest rooms filled with new friends staying for a few days or weeks or years, our WhatsApp filled with freedom selfies and follow-ups, what needed to be filed now, with what court, what challenge was next. Our network became people who knew a power that no one should ever know, the power of paying a ransom to the government for a human's freedom.
So I have to admit, when I read Our Time for All Ages story, I felt intimidated. What stood out to me was all that the minister in the story did, and I just didn't feel up to it. I felt like Moses in that old story that archetypally repeats again and again, Moses who said to the voice from the burning bush, not me, Lord." I heard that voice calling to me. I heard someone calling my name, and like Moses, I didn't feel up to the task. Inside, I said, "Not me, oh, please, not me." So when I read the actual story that the Time for All Ages is based on, that you just heard, and it was a local union organizer who made the first step, who was the leader of that immigration bond movement, I felt relieved. Oh, it's not me. Whew! Thank goodness. But then I kept reading and realized that the local union organizer is the voice calling my name, calling our names. And I thought, oh no, I can't do it. I don't have the time. I'm a parent, and I'm going through a divorce, and I have other ministerial responsibilities. I have a long commute. I can't do it. I'm sure many of you can relate in your own ways with your own busy lives. And all of that busyness is true. All of it is true, all except the I can't do it part. Because the voice I heard in the story, the voice calling my name, it isn't saying, visit immigrants in prison and start a bail bond network. It actually isn't saying that. What the voice is saying is, hush, hush. Somebody's calling your name. Shut up and listen. Listen. Who is it who's calling your name? What are you called to do? What are you called to do to meet this moment? You see, the minister in the story doesn't decide, this is what I'm going to do. She isn't listening to herself, isn't listening to her desires or her ego's thoughts about what she should do, or even what she can do, even what she wants to do. She starts with the hush. Hush. She shuts up, and then she listens. Listens for the deeper voice calling her name. And that's what we're called to do, beloveds. That's what we're all called to do as individuals and as a collective. The voice is calling out, telling us first to be quiet, and then to listen. And not to listen to ourselves, but to listen to that deeper voice that is calling your name. And I know the world today, it's overwhelming. It's mad overwhelming. Makes you just want to climb back into bed. Makes you want to shut up your ears and climb back under the covers. Or to binge something frivolous. The latest season of Bridgerton. Or of the Great British Baking Show. Or I don't know what. I don't know why they're all British either. And I'm not knocking Bridgerton or the Great British Baking Show. I love me some Shonda Rhimes, and I love me some Paul Hollywood, and we need breaks from the intensity of it all. We need breaks from the overwhelm, but they need to be short breaks. They need to be breaks that re-energize us. They need to be breaks that offer real rest that rejuvenates us. Maybe even breaks that inspire us. Because what we need to do next is to get to work. What we need to do after that rest is to get back to work. Never forget that we're meant to be overwhelmed. That's part of the strategy. The diabolical strategy, the demonic strategy. We're meant to be overwhelmed. We're meant to be so overwhelmed we can't think straight. We're meant to be so overwhelmed that we run back into whatever hole we can find. We're meant to be so overwhelmed that we start bickering amongst ourselves, because that bickering and blame doesn't hurt as much as the enormous suffering playing out right in front of us. Because that bickering and blame isn't as scary. We're meant to be so overwhelmed that we can't hear the voice over the cacophonous din of it all, so that we can't hush, so that we don't listen. Because when we can't listen, when we don't listen, we can't connect. We don't connect. We don't connect with each other. And we don't connect the dots of what's happening and figure out what we can do about it. Or not figure it out, but hear the call. The call from a voice that's bigger than us, a voice that knows more than us. And I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister. I'm not saying it's a supernatural voice. Maybe it is. Or maybe it's just the voice that arises from the moment that we're in. The burning bush moment. And in that burning bush moment from the Bible, the voice doesn't say, freedom, liberation. The voice says, Moses, go free the children of Israel from their bondage in Egypt, in Mitzrayim. That's the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word for Egypt that has intimations, has a wordplay that suggests a constricted place. In that moment, in that burning bush moment, the call is to free a particular people from a particular bondage in a particular place at a particular moment in time. That's what we're called to do. To listen for the voice guiding us toward the work that's our work to do in this particular place, with this moment's people, this moment's bondage. Bondage. I want to draw our attention to that word, bondage. People are being rounded up, abducted, as Pam Cox puts it, because that's what's happening. There's no alien abduction. It's the so-called aliens, the so-called foreigners. This moment's children of Israel, the strangers who are being rounded up, abducted, kidnapped, and not by some drug lords in Mexico or some dictator in Argentina. These so-called aliens, these supposed strangers, they're our neighbors. And they're being kidnapped by our government in our name. But there is another voice calling us, calling our name, calling my name, calling your name. Bondage. That's the word. And in the story, the minister helps create an anti-deportation network. Note that word, network. We'll come back to that in a moment. She helps to create an anti-deportation network, not because she decides that's what she should do, certainly not because it's what she wants to be doing with her time, because that's what the moment calls her to do, because she's listening, because she's courageous enough to hear the voice calling out. And where does that voice come from? Where does that courage come from? It comes from her connection. It comes from her bond. There's that word again in a different form. It comes from her bond. First with the local union organizer, and then increasingly from the connections, the bonds she makes with the names he gives her, the names he gives to her and to other people in the network who are knitting together a network for those in need. Knitting together a network with the person, let's call him Edwin Lopez Cornejo from El Salvador, who has no one to show up to court with him. With the person, let's call him Mamuka Artmaladze of Georgia, who's looking for a lawyer. With the person, let's call him Tuan Van Boy from Vietnam, whose family needs help making rent. With the person, let's call him Geraldo Lunas Campos of Haiti, who has no commissionary money. With the person, let's call him, I have the same name written down, Geraldo Lunas Campos from Cuba. We'll get that right in a moment. Who has an immigration bond and could be free if he could have found the money to pay it. Now, I gave these people real names so we would be more likely to connect with them, with their humanity, with their human dignity, more likely to bond with them, to feel with them, and with their families. And each of the people I just named died in ICE custody after being abducted, after being kidnapped and incarcerated, criminalized, and placed in bondage. Edwin Lopez Cornejo, age 41, died just over a week ago on August 1st while in bondage at the Delaney Hall Detention Center in New Jersey. I was just in New Jersey this past week. Mamuka Artmaladzade, age 43, died while in bondage in Louisiana. Tuan Van Bowie, age 55, died while in bondage in Bunker Hill, Indiana. Emmanuel Clifford Damas from Haiti, age 56, died after being denied access to a dentist in Arizona from a tooth infection. A tooth infection. And on January 3rd of this year, Geraldo Lunas Campos of Cuba, from Cuba, age 55, died while in bondage after being choked to death by guards while repeatedly calling out, "No puedo respirar, no puedo respirar, no puedo respirar." I can't breathe. They're calling our names, beloveds. They're calling our names. The Moses in our story is Elizabeth Wen, and she happens to be a minister. But she could be any one of us who listens and answers the call. We're told that these immigrants, these refugees, are criminals, and our efforts to help them in many cases have been made crimes. But Reverend Elizabeth Wen implores us to center ourselves in love, to listen and answer the call of love. The love, she writes, that is caring for our health in body and in mind. The love that is migration. The love that is feeding the hungry. The love that is bailing someone out of jail. The love that is protest. Our allegiance, she reminds us, must be to love. Today, right now, in this moment, acts of love, acts of shared humanity have been turned into crimes. So Reverend Wen gives us a prayer. Prayer for the not guilty. Pray for all of us who are not guilty of collectivism, not guilty of social solidarity, not guilty of mutual aid. I know how busy we are, how busy many of us are. I know how overwhelming it can be. I get it. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you on that. But I don't want to be included in that part of the prayer for those not guilty of answering the call. I want to be guilty. I want to be guilty of answering the call of love. I want to be included in the next part of Reverend Wen's prayer. May we be guilty of the belief that individuals will work together and voluntarily contribute their own resources to ensure that each individual has their needs met. May we be guilty of the idea of human altruism. That is, that individuals will voluntarily offer goods, services, and resources. May we be taught by our people who have had to learn how to survive a cage, a warrant, an indictment, a repression, a backlash to an uprising. In furtherance of interdependence, aid freely and mutually given, in furtherance of freedom, may we fight for the guilty. And may we pray for the not guilty. This freedom from bondage, it comes from listening. And to listen to the voices calling our name, we need to be connected. So I'm not telling you what to do. I don't know. I'm not telling you how big or small or how often. I don't know that either. What I do know is that we need to be bonded to our neighbors, because that's how we hear the voices. That's how we know which actions we're called to take. That's how we know how to answer the call of love. So I say, may it be so, and may we be among those who make it so. Amen, 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 and blessed be.
All right, so you've already risen now in body or spirit to join in our closing words. As we extinguish our chalice, I invite you to join me now in our community blessing, inspired by the words of David Mumbaugh. This church is dedicated to the proposition that there is a unity beneath all of our diversity, that we grow together, celebrating our differences, honoring a journey that reaches beyond time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that our shared covenant. And now that we've gathered together in this welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, let us go out into the world inspired to share our values. Thank you.